We're going to be talking about resumes today. We already have a lot of people join, so that's great. Some people have raised hands. That's amazing. So the goal of this session is we're going to be talking about what you need to do on your resume to stand out with specifically with Canadian tech companies that we work with, and in general, of course, but the template we're using. Let's get started. Okay, so basically a bunch of things that I think are important about a resume in general. First and foremost is to understand what is the goal here. The goal is not to give somebody your entire life's journey. The goal is to give a recruiter enough information to decide whether or not you categorically fit into the type of role that he or she is looking to recruit for. And with that information, make the decision on whether or not to further pursue conversations with you. That's basically the only goal of a resume. So keep that in mind and understand what you're trying to accomplish here. You definitely don't want to waste anyone's time, because the reality is, whether you like it or not, nobody's going to spend time reading your resume. All the details, there's no way. No one has the time, especially recruiters. They're super busy people all the time. They go through tons and tons of documents. Their eyes get tired. They might not be able to focus because there's just so much stuff happening, answering to candidates, replying to their team, launching campaigns, all sorts of different stuff. So a lot of stuff is going on. So don't think people are just sitting there waiting to look at amazing achievements that you have. I'm sure you've had a lot of amazing achievements, and it's great. You'll get a chance to talk about them once you get the interview. But this document is not a place for you to showcase all that. It's not a documentary. It's not a book. It's just a piece of paper, well, digital, to convey main points about what is important about your history of work experience, and also your goals. And that will determine how you would be matched to a position. That's it, basically. So it's kind of a matching tool, data that somebody uses to match you to a job. We also use that as well. So part of our job is to use this information to match you to jobs. So if you do well here, your chances of matching to a job increase. We see the right kind of information here. It helps us make a quick judgment on whether to put you forward or not, especially, the first time that we're trying to do this. You go through a process with us. We obviously look at your performance on our coding challenge. We look at your replies to our the few video questions that we have, and the combination of these alongside the resume form the decision-making process for us. So do your best, and we'll try to do our best to make sure that you get matched to the right positions. Now, let's move forward. Okay, so now we know what the goal is here. What is this tool for? And how is it going to help you with your journey? So the conversion rate, for example, for this tool is how many interviews can it get for you. That's it, basically. Nothing else matters. And let's figure out what are the key points here that is interesting for someone who's looking at your resume. Now, something to consider, just kind of, I guess, this is our rule, but we have everybody put our logo on top. Why? Because you're referred to our different companies kind of as a candidate that we have verified. So it's important to make sure that they understand that, and it should help you. Theoretically, it should help you get to the interview stage faster, because they know that we've done our homework on you, and if we're introducing someone, we have a high chance of matching with the right position. So that's why you'll get better attention. So please include this logo on the top, and of course your full name. It's super important to include your desired role. Sometimes this is really confusing for people, but I think throughout your career, you should probably be, you should know at any stage what's the next kind of position that you're looking for. And it should probably better be one. If there's more than one, there should be a really good reason for that. And you should have 2 different CVs. And I give this challenge to people because I'm like, if you really feel like you're a fit for 2 different positions, 2 different types of positions, then you should put the effort in making 2 different CVs, and the content should be different. Focus on different aspects of what you're good at. So rule of thumb is just choose one. And this goes for 99% of people who are watching this. You should probably have just one desired role, whatever you think is really, so consider 2 things. One is, okay, what do you actually have experience in? Because when you're trying to get a position, especially from abroad in another country, fast-growing tech company, they want someone who knows what they're doing. So you're probably not going to get a position in something that you're just interested in or experimenting with. It could be about added bonus, but you're definitely going to get a position in what you already are good at. So focus on that. And of course, you definitely need to consider where you want to take your career and include that into your decision-making. So for example, if you're a full-stack developer, as an example, you're a full-stack developer, you know, you've played around with a lot of different technologies, you've worked on some different things, but the majority of your career, you've been focused, you know, with a combination of .NET and recently you've been working with React on the front end. And, you know, so it makes sense for you to apply to a position where you're a full-stack developer. And .NET is kind of the core technology stack that the company is using. Another scenario might be, okay, you haven't just worked with .NET, you also worked with Python and maybe Ruby or something else as well. And it's not been kind of a tech agnostic type of developers. You've worked with the different types of languages. That's cool. There's a lot of companies that are interested in those kind of developers. So then the tech stack isn't super important for you, but maybe kind of the type of projects or the type of roles are more interesting for you. Another scenario could be you just kind of fell in love with front-end technologies and you just want to be like, I want to dig deeper into React or whatever. And the fact that you have full stack experience, I think gives you a strong advantage. And if you have done proper work on the front end side, I think it makes sense for you to apply to that kind of position. So different examples, different cases of how you could decide what your desired role could be. Now, I think this is probably an important, deep kind of topic for a lot of people. Is there any questions here at this moment? I'm just going to pause here for a second. If there's any questions, anything. We have the chat, we have QA, and I'm also allowing, I've enabled like the microphone thing, so you can just come up and talk if you want. So if there's any questions regarding how to choose your desired role, and if you have any confusions there or what kind of positions I think would be a fit for you, now's the time to ask. And let's move on to, okay, so no questions, that's good. So everybody's pretty clear about what they want. Next part, that's super important. Obviously, of course, you have to include your phone, your email, and address. These are important. Please include all of them. It's important to understand for the person who's talking to you, to understand you know, who you are, like how to get in touch with you, where's your location, all these basic information. And then your phone numbers also should be something that they could actually, you know, reach you. There might be a meeting canceled, there might be some problem, and so they want to call you. Okay, so we have, while I was saying this, we have a question from one of the participants. So what if you are in a situation where the role is a front end and you are a full stack? That's an interesting question. Now, okay, so with kind of our approach, that's not going to happen to you because we're going to introduce you to positions that we think you're actually fit for. Where that might happen is if you're applying on your own, which is absolutely fine. We support you. We encourage you. Apply. Do whatever you want to do, and we'll help you in any way we can. But the point is that you have to be able to demonstrate that you have the required experience. It doesn't matter what the role is. What matters is what you have done. And it has to be relevant to that position. So the role as a front end, as a full stack developer, you've had plenty of experience working with front end technologies, and you actually enjoy it, and it's something that you want to focus on. Yeah, why not? Go for it. If that's not the case, then I think you should think twice about it and focus on positions that are really a match for you. Rahul is asking me, hi Mo. Okay, so it's a good question actually. I'm going to answer this. So I hope that answered your question. If it didn't, please ask me more, and I'll clarify about the front end versus full stack situation. So Rahul, your question, I feel like my resume, which I use for other jobs, is well done. I have received some appreciation for my resume as well. What is the need to fill in the template provider? The need is our rule. Our process is we only put forward candidates that have our template. The reason is make sure that it helps with speed. And speed is super important in this process, and it helps us do our job faster. It helps companies that we work with do their job faster because they know what to expect from you. They know the format. And this is the information. So nobody cares about the design of your resume. Nobody cares about any of those things. What's important is the basic information needs to be there, and they're just going to take a quick look and understand what you've done. So for that reason, because the template does not matter, then use our template. And because everything is in order, and it's easier to recognize. So if somebody is looking at different resumes, they're not judging you based on the design. They're actually judging you based on the content of what's on your profile, and that really makes things faster. So it's definitely for your own good, and everybody else's job is faster and easier done. So that also goes back into your favor. So yeah, I hope that answered your question. But it's a good one. So good questions, keep them coming. As you can see live, there's also a lot of people already looking at this template right now. So it's pretty popular. We've had everybody in our community from a long time ago has been using our template. So we know it works. Trust it, move forward with it. Next part that's important is a summary. The basic concept here is that this is your professional summary, so it's not about what you would include on your Tinder profile. It's about your professional summary. So energetic software engineer with 7 years of experience developing robust code for high value businesses. So obviously this is just kind of filler text, right? But it gives you the idea. So like, I think it's okay to use like positive. To me, this is more like the energetic part isn't super important. That's kind of just like an adjective that you might use to describe yourself. That's not really important. What's important is just kind of giving the person, like when they're reading this, they just like clearly get an idea, a confirmation of, okay, this is the type of person you are, person like developer you are. This is how much experience you have, and this is the kind of work that you've been doing. So here, instead of putting high volume businesses, you should include the name of your business, company that you've worked with, or whatever you've done, or project that you've worked on. Give some example, like a really quick example of some highlights of what you've achieved. Definitely include numbers. Figure out those numbers. Look back at your career, talk to your colleagues, your previous boss, or anyone you can. Figure out numbers. Numbers help you a lot. And then talk about any awards, any team leadership experience, or anything interesting there, or any cool technologies that you worked with. If you feel like you're a team player, or if you feel like you have certain characteristics that play well in a team, highlight those. Don't just say cliche things. I know these are cliche things, but they're not here for you to copy them. They're here for you to give you inspiration on what kind of adjectives you think are your strengths, and describe you very well for your role in a team. And this is your opportunity to maybe like just sprinkle that a little bit here, just to give them an idea of who you are. Maybe you're someone who likes to like really get down and dirty into the code, and then get your hands dirty really quickly, and that's where you shine, and you like to really focus and get things done super fast. Or maybe you're the kind of person who really can put themselves in the shoes of the customer, and you understand, user experience, you understand how to design a product or architect a product that customers really understand. You sympathize with them, you understand them, you're more product minded. Maybe you're super passionate about certain technologies, and you're really good with them, and that's kind of your forte. That's where you shine, like maybe machine learning or data science or something like that. Anyway, so this is where you kind of add what you think is your differentiator. And yeah, I mean, you can also add something personal, just interesting about you, like if you like to blog, if you're part of any communities, if you've done any interesting work, um, that is not necessarily, you might be volunteering it somewhere, you might be contributing to an open source project, you might be doing anything. So anything that you think is outside of your day-to-day job but is also interesting and relevant to your work, I think is pretty cool. Next part that we've included is mainly just to help categorize your skill sets, and quickly match them, especially for recruiters, because not everybody understands, or has the time to pay that much attention and really understand exactly what kind of technologies you've worked with. So you want to include a summary here, and this really helps to speed things up for everybody. They can, with a few seconds, they could just pretty much clearly understand what you've worked with and whether you have at least the right combination of skills that they would pursue further. So they will go down, and this is what's going to happen is they're going to start looking at your experiences. Definitely the most important experience is your recent ones. So if your recent one, you just started like last year, or you started like a few months ago, then your second recent one is also super important. If not, if you've been in the latest position for a few years, then this is the main star of this resume, is what you've done here. Obviously, you want to include basic information about the company, where it is, city, whatever, year. Please make this really understandable. Like if you've had, please include it in chronological order. So starting with your latest, and then make the years really easy to understand. Some people write confusing stuff here. Obviously, provide a very, very brief description of the company. Try to find something that they would put in one line. And here's an example. This is what they do. Like there's marketing automation SaaS product, and this is what they built. So just keep it really simple. Like to me, I mean, this is as much as you would put. This is like the maximum you would spend describing what your company does, just to give the person kind of an idea of the scale or the complexity or the difficulty of the project that you worked on, or the product. And then what's important is to include 3 to 7 bullet points. And I'm giving you numbers just to make your life easier. Of course, you can do 5, you can do you can do 8 if you really have them, but just try to stay within this range. There shouldn't be much more to include. So just like kind of focus on your key responsibilities, or better yet, say contributions to this product or project or this company, and definitely include achievements you've had, and kind of big takeaways that you've had from this time that you spent on this product or project, and definitely include numbers. Try to convey business value. I think that's really mature, and I think it also shows that you know how to understand and measure your value and contribute more to a team. So I think it's super important to include that. And of course, definitely for each position, include which technologies you've worked with. Even be specific with frameworks and languages, and try to include them in order of importance, relevance, or frequency of use. So, for example, if I mean that's pretty clear what I mean, but just try to give like the person a brief snapshot of, okay, if you've been in this company for 2 years, that means that you've been using Python for 2 years. And you should probably know a lot about it by now. And if I see that here again, it shows me that, okay, so you've been working with Python for the last 5 years, same framework. That means that, okay, there's a high chance that you're pretty good with this. Obviously, you're still going to be tested, but, probabilities, right? You want to give the person who's looking at your resume, doesn't know anything about you. All they know about you is just a piece of paper, to make a judgment on whether you should be moving through the next round or not. So it's not personal. It's more about moving through the steps of the interview. And yes, you can argue with me and say that years of experience does not show how good you are. Yes, that's true. But everybody needs some kind of metric, and this is a metric in the industry. So you need to include that in your process. Okay, let's do a brief pause, see if there's any questions here. There might be some stuff about what to include in a resume, or if you have some questions about how to describe projects, products, technology stacks, anything related to that. Now is a good time to ask them while I take a brief break. Yeah, by the way, one of the things to also consider when you're filling out this information is that you can also kind of think about it within the SMART framework that we've been discussing on the interviews about your projects. So if you don't remember the STAR method, sorry, I don't know what's SMART, is something else, the STAR method. So if you have had the opportunity to take a look at the PDF guide we sent on interview prep basics, and also the video that's included, we discussed that a little bit. So that framework and that mindset is pretty good in terms of helping you understand what you should be talking about here. Obviously, this is the written format, and it should be more detailed in terms of like pure numbers and kind of achievements. So like you want bullet points. You're not writing like a story. You're writing just kind of basic bullet points, highlights of what you've done. So keep that in mind when you're talking about any of your previous experiences. I would suggest you include all of them. So I see some people who've had like a lot of experience don't include all their projects. You should include them, but you can, like your older projects, you can just kind of really narrow them down, and you don't need to explain everything about them. Like if it's something that you did like 10 years ago, you don't really need to go in depth into what the project was, but maybe you can include like a line or two about like, I worked at this company, this is what I did here, here, here. So just kind of the highlights and then the points, like what was your role, what did you work with, and any achievements or anything interesting. So this is for those of you who have a bit more experience. So don't omit anything from your resumes. And your goal is to keep it definitely under 3 pages. So 3 is the maximum, I would suggest. And the 3rd page should mainly just be like this stuff, like your education, certifications, publications, additional activities, all these things. So I think it's important to kind of keep this brief, keep it short, and don't really reduce the text size to fit as much as you can in here, because it just becomes really difficult to read. So this is like the maximum you should be putting information in front of someone for this stage. So keep it short, keep it sweet, and stick to the basics. Okay. So, okay, I don't see any new questions. Okay. I don't see also if there's any other questions that Ali, I'm just kind of just a reminder, if there's any questions that was submitted before this session, whether in our community group, I don't see it now, but if there's anything, just let me know. So let's continue. Right. So, okay, so basically, let's just kind of do a quick review. You've got the basic information here. Definitely focus on your desired role. This is a decision you need to make. If you need help with this, let us know, and then we'll try to help you with this. Write us an email, explain what your confusion is. Try to give us a good understanding of why you don't know which role makes sense to you. We'll try to help you. If needed, we'll jump on a quick call and figure this out together. So that's an important decision. Coming up with this short description bio of yourself is pretty important as well. It's also gives you a hint, an idea of what you should be talking about when you go to an interview and they say, tell me about yourself. Obviously, you don't want to be reading or rereading anything that's here, but it should give you like a framework of what topics to stick to. Definitely overview your technologies. It's important. It helps move. This is exactly the kind of thing that makes everybody's life easier and makes things faster. So just use it. For the same reason that the template makes sense, this also makes sense. It might not make sense to you in some formats, but it makes things faster. Then the most important part to highlight is your recent experiences. So please, just give a brief description, really brief, high-level description of what the project or product was that you worked on, and then describe using 3 to 7 bullet points. In summary, very brief, describe your responsibility or contribution to the project and your success. Use numbers, and definitely at the end, include the tech stack that you've worked with during this product or project, preferably in order of importance. That, I think, is kind of the rule of thumb of how to describe your work experience. Definitely include all of them, but for the older ones, you don't need to go as much into detail. That's just what I say. And definitely make sure to keep it under, keep the whole thing under 3 pages, absolutely under 3 pages. And the last page should just be like things like your education, certifications, publications, additional things, links to your profiles, all the stuff that they need. But the reality is, this first page, which is, your summary, technology, and your most recent experience, is the #1 decision maker, whether someone goes and continues to read this, right? Like, they get the basic information. They're like, okay, you're someone with 7 years of experience. Okay, you're full stack. This is the stack you worked with. This is the company. Okay, in this country. Okay, I kind of have an idea of, the level of work that's being done in that ecosystem, and then you move forward and you kind of go into the details. And if this makes sense, then you go and you continue read, and you look for confirmation that this person, okay, this is the path that this person had, and you've included all the relevant information. I do have a note to add here, but first we have a question. Let's look at that. Nadia had a question. Certification, should the link be added to CV or just mention? I don't think the link is necessary unless it's something unusually, I don't know, like something that I would really want to go and check. Otherwise, there's no reason for me to not believe you, that you have the certification. Like checks and these kind of things all obviously happen at the kind of later stages. So I would never double check that at this stage. And I doubt that anybody would. So I don't think it's necessary. But if it's something that you feel like is necessary for someone to go and see, like it's some sort of like portfolio of your work, which contributes to someone's decision as to whether they should move forward with you or not, then it's important and include it there. And this would be my suggestion also for anyone who does any kind of work that has visual representation, like if you're a UX designer, if you're a mobile developer, or if you're even a front-end developer. I think it's pretty cool to at least link to like, the main page of the product or something to give someone like an idea of what kind of projects you've worked on. So yeah, in those cases, I think, yeah, it makes a difference. I hope that answers your question. Now, another point I wanted to make, which is important to me, and I've seen this become an issue for a lot of people, is unusual journeys that you've had and then you don't address them. So for example, interesting things happen, like things as simple as, okay, in 2017 you were in a tech lead position, and then in 2018 it looks like you downgraded to a like, not downgraded as in it's a lower, but like kind of high, in terms of hierarchy in a company. It seems like your next role, when you went to another company, looks like you just went back to developer, like a developer role. So that means that you kind of let go of leadership responsibilities. Now, this could be for one of two reasons. Number one, you were bad at leadership, which is okay. You can be honest and say, okay, I feel like I can contribute more as an individual contributor, and this is where I shine. And this product or project or company was really interesting for me, and that's where I found out that I'm really passionate about. So I'm just going to stick to that. It's okay, makes sense. But you have to address that, right? Be ready to talk about that in your. Definitely be ready to be prepared to talk about it in your interview, and if you can, figure out a way to include that in your learnings about that position. So that the person who's looking at that, if this becomes a concern and they start reading into this, there's at least some sort of guidance of why this happened for them, because this might be a reason for them to reject you. Or, you include a lot of irrelevant work experience on your resume. I mean, it's okay to mention like old jobs, but you don't need to go into detail about them. You're just wasting everybody's time. So just kind of stick to those. Or, of course, the classic case of you put your oldest job first, which please don't do that. It just doesn't make sense to anyone. Put your latest job first. And, or things where you've kind of dramatically shifted careers. I think those should also kind of include some sort of simple note, just one line of like, this is the reason that I moved, or something really simple about it, so that the person who's reading it at least knows that you're ready to respond to this. You're ready to address it in an interview, in a phone call, and that should resolve that issue. You could also include something really brief about it in, like, if you know how to be kind of nice with words and play around with it, you could also include something there like, hey, I was I don't know, I was a nurse for 5 years, and then for some reason I fell in love with coding, and since the past 4 years that's all I've been doing, and blah blah blah. So it's like, actually, it's an interesting way of kind of differentiating yourself, because you have an interesting history and then you kind of went into this, and you can play around with that and make it something where so the key is it needs to be addressed, and the person who's reading this needs to know that you're prepared to address this, and you know how to respond to it. It builds confidence that they can put you forward. And if for any reason there's a company that wouldn't accept you, if that's the case, for whatever reason, usually bad reasons, but let's say the reason is not important, for whatever reason, because of your past experience, you wouldn't go through the next rounds, I think it's better for you to not waste your time right from the beginning. So just put it out there, be honest about it, and let the information speak for itself. So yeah, okay. So that's all the basics covered. And as you can see on our template, we have like all the descriptions. One thing to bear in mind is we do checks on your resumes before you're confirmed to be part of the active pool. So when you fill this out, it's going to be checked. We also do a grammar and spell check. Please use tools like Grammarly, which is super easy to use. Do a spell check. especially with technical terms. Try to use them in the right and correct format. I think it looks very unprofessional if you've typed something that is a technical term using the wrong, it's misspelled. So I think it looks really bad. Please pay attention to those, and yeah, just fit in the template. Shouldn't be too long. It should be, don't play around with the font size. Try to fit in as much as you can. Please don't. This is a standard that's easy to read. It's up to the maximum. This is the maximum information you can give someone, and we've done it this way so that you're like, okay, this is what it can look like at the end. So please don't make it longer or make it too complicated to read and understand. Great. Okay, so we're done here, but please bear with us, help us move this process faster. The faster and the better you do this, the more likelihood you have of securing an interview, which is the one and only goal of this document. Okay, thank you, everyone. We will see you again next week. We have an interesting talk coming up. Please pay attention to the newsletter that we send out. We'll have links to upcoming events and always some cool articles that we find around it. That we think are worth reading and might help you on this journey. As always, I'd like to thank everyone on the team for helping out and putting effort into our events and kind of the community. We'd love your feedback on every aspect of what we do, so just don't be shy and reach out. All the best. Take care. Good night from Berlin.